Hello and welcome to the Bridgeway podcast. My name is Matt Foster, Head of People and Development here at Bridgeway. Here today I have Steve Diksa from HSQE and Beth Bowden from Commercial. Today we're going to be discussing safety and commercial closed calls, explaining what they are, why they're raised and how the two compare. So to start us off, Beth, could you tell me a little bit about yourself please?
Yes, hi, I'm Beth. I've been with Bridgeway for nearly 10 years now. I started as a commercial administrator with a small portfolio of works, the billing for which I was responsible for, and I provided support to other members in the commercial department. After a couple of years, I was asked to train as a quantity surveyor, something which I didn't know too much about at the time, to be honest. I went back to uni, got my master's in quantity surveying, and now I look after higher risk works, I undertake contract reviews, and I am responsible for actioning commercial close calls, helping to make changes and improvements throughout the business where possible.
Great. And Steve, a little bit about yourself, please.
Matt. Well, I've been in the rail industry for 45 years, and I've been at Bridgeway for 15 of those. And during that 45 years, I've undertaken a variety of roles at frontline, management, supervisory, and at Bridgeway, I'm the director of health and safety, and a big part of my job is to make sure that everyone goes home safe every day, to make sure we've got good systems, good processes, good culture, good behaviour, and also a significant part of my job is sustainability, and commercial close calls are a big part of ensuring that Bridgeway remain a sustainable business.
That's great, thank you. So Steve, safety close calls then were introduced to the business around 11 years ago, and safety is obviously at the heart of what we do. Please, can you talk me through what a safety close call is, just for anyone that's not aware?
Yeah, well, you're right in saying they were introduced 11 years ago by the UK rail industry. We'd never had close calls before. They were always incidents or near misses, but a close call is basically anything that could cause damage or harm to either a person, the environment, to the infrastructure, plant or equipment. And the difference between a close call and an incident, close call is something that could happen. An incident is something that has happened. But the important thing is, close calls were rolled out to identify dangerous situations, dangerous behaviours, to prevent them from happening or to stop them from happening again.
That's great, thank you very much. So we obviously understand the importance of safety close calls. We've introduced the world of commercial close calls, and many of you will see emails and text messages flying around at the moment. But for anyone that's not aware of what a commercial close call is or doesn't have an understanding of that, Beth, could you just explain what a commercial close call is for me, please?
Yes, so a commercial close call is a notification of any error or instance which could have posed a financial risk to the business. So really we can split them into two areas. The first area is a commercial near miss. So where did we nearly spend money which we shouldn't have done? Or where did we almost send a quote out for a job that had an item missing? Or did we nearly sign a contract which carried too much risk for us? And they're all examples of where something nearly happened which could have had a financial impact had they occurred. But the other area is a commercial loss. So where did we spend that money that we shouldn't have done? Have we paid an invoice that was incorrect for a subcontractor and we've paid for 5 shifts instead of 2 shifts? Have we issued that quote which didn't include all of our costs? Or did we actually sign that contract which carries a lot of risk and now we need to push to get the works done as soon as possible before we incur delay damages? Even though those events have happened, we do still want them to be raised as commercial close calls because we can learn from them and we can try to stop them from happening again and raise commercial awareness throughout the business. So part of it is about learning from our mistakes and making positive changes. Now those changes might be a process we follow or a system we use, such as M-Plan, stores, the accommodation app, or perhaps there is no process to follow at all in a certain area, which is why a mistake has been made in the first place. So if we are aware of what has happened and we can look to implement a process. But we can't actually do any of this without being aware of what has almost happened or what did actually happen in the first place. We also want to ensure that we are developing people to understand risks they may not have seen before and how to handle them. Where we can identify patterns or trends, we can improve learning, we can offer advice, we can update processes to deal with challenging and changing commercial environments. And the final area really is suggestions for improvements. They are welcome as well. If you identify anything that you think we could be doing better, you can still raise that with us. We're open to those ideas, and we're happy to discuss anything that comes through, basically.
And then I guess off the back of that, so why are you asking them to be raised in the first place then? Why do you want them to be raised?
Whilst it may seem that we are penny pinching, we want to be able to invest money back into the business and the people within it. The money we save by being more commercially aware can be put towards investments. So this could be new site equipment, new office equipment, or new technology. It can also help us to invest in us, the people who work here, and be put towards training courses or perhaps upskilling staff. We also need to remain sustainable, as we are a business, and the 3 E's are what we are all about: exceeding expectations everywhere safely and sustainably. And we can also look to see where improvements and changes can be made, which could be to the systems we use or the processes we follow. These could result in marginal gains and perhaps make our lives a little bit easier. There are also a lot of financial and commercial pressures that we are facing. As everyone is aware, the cost of pretty much everything has gone up over the past year or so, and we've seen that in our personal lives, and we've seen it here at Bridgeway as well. We don't want to be losing money or spending money unnecessarily, and commercial close calls will hopefully spread commercial awareness and help us in the long term.
Beth, thank you for that. So obviously we're talking about safety, we're talking about commercial close calls.
Yeah.
Assuming they go hand in hand then.
Yeah, totally. Bridgeway's ethos is that commercial and safety assurance go hand in hand and they balance the business. We know that if we are out on site and something doesn't look right or it doesn't feel right, we report it, and that's how we want commercial close calls to be viewed and to be actioned. Why should they be treated differently? For example, if you come across a job where it doesn't look like we've covered all of our cost, we want to encourage people to report it, as we may be able to do something about it. We could contact our client to see if we can make an agreement. It doesn't always work, but sometimes we do have success. And at the very least, it would be something that we can learn from and we can take on board. Or, for example, if you have accidentally accepted a purchase order, which is 60-day payment terms instead of 30-day payment terms, we want you to feel comfortable raising it as a commercial close call. Issues like this have an effect, and we are seeing clients trying to extend credit terms without speaking to us first. So reporting on a commercial close call such as this one is crucial if we are able to be a viable and a sustainable business.
Steve, would you like to discuss anything then about the yin and yang and elaborate on the above?
Yeah, well, a big part of my role at Bridgeway is safety and sustainability. And the yin and yang has been around at Bridgeway before I was at Bridgeway, actually. And it's really key that as far as having a balance, it's really, really important at Bridgeway that we have the balance of the yin and yang, and neither should get the better of each other. And, being mindful of costs doesn't make us any less safe, but it also enables us to be a sustainable business. So the yin and yang is part of my DNA. It should be part of everybody's DNA. And as far as departments, we both respect that there has got to be an equal balance. And just to reinforce everything, commercial close calls, as with safety close calls, they should and will never be a finger-pointing exercise. It's to make us a safer and more commercially focused business.
Thank you for that. So the process for safety and commercial close calls, it varies then, Steve. What is the process for when a safety close call is raised? Would you be able to talk us through an example of this?
Well, I'll give you an easier way that we've recently implemented at Bridgeway, which is via the Bridgeway Help app, which in my view has been kind of groundbreaking as far as close calls. Because prior to that, it was quite slow, it was kind of laborious, it was paper-driven, it was email-driven, there was no tracking, there was no real data. Well, we had some data, but not the data that we've got. But in essence, everybody at Bridgeway to raise a safety close call or raise it by the Bridgeway app, it should take no more than 1.5 minutes. That's recorded on the Bridgeway close call system, and we have all that information. If it's something that's happened on net rail infrastructure, we're then obliged to record that by the Network Rail Safety and Standards Board close call system. So that's where all the close calls get raised. If we've got it within the power to close the close calls at Bridgeway, we can do that. But sometimes it can take quite a long time, and sometimes never, but that should never put people off on getting a close call raised and closed out on the Network Rail system. But I will say, raising a safety close call, it's slick, it's simple, and it's been a big improvement to Bridgeway over the last couple of months.
No, that's great then. I think to compare both then, Beth, talk to me about how I would raise a commercial close call and what steps are followed once that's happened and I've raised that.
Okay, so an example I've got is, let's say a project manager has been given a package of works to complete. The works have already been priced up, let's say by somebody else, and as they are planning the site work, they come across an area which requires traffic management in order for the work to go ahead. The project manager refers to the quote, which has already been agreed with the client, and discover that there are no traffic management costs included. So this is a commercial close call because we've not covered all the costs required to complete the works. So we will be paying a supplier to undertake traffic management, but we have no way of billing those costs to the client because they've not been included. So what would happen is the project manager would submit their commercial close call via an email. So let's say that is raised as commercial close call. I would then action it, and the first one with this example, the first action I would undertake is to find out how we actually managed to miss those costs in the first place. So there could be multiple reasons for it. It might be that we didn't think at the time of quoting the works that traffic management was required, or there was a formula error in the quotation spreadsheet perhaps, or we were waiting for the traffic management quote from our supplier and it arrived late. But let's say it was genuine human error in this instance, and the person who quoted the work simply forgot to enter the costs, because we're all human and we all make mistakes.
Yeah, I think that's really key. We are all human, but that's the issue. Let's say, what would your next steps be from that?
So probably my first port of call would be to obtain the quote from our traffic management supplier and find out how much it will cost. We'll then decide whether this is something we can bring up with our client. We would look at who the client is, what our relationship is like. Do we have a good working relationship with them? Even if we don't, it can still be worth having that conversation. Let's say we do decide to have that conversation with them, and we discuss the error and we hold our hands up and explain that we have made a genuine mistake by missing these costs. We ask them if there is anything they can do to help us out, and if they can, then great. If not, we need to be aware that we are working at a loss for that traffic management. So what we need to do is find efficiencies wherever we can, and then we can look to see if there is something we can do to try and stop it from happening again. We won't always find a way. I appreciate we can't fix every single problem that comes through and is submitted via commercial close call, but we are going to take a look. So with this one, for example, can we implement an additional check on quotes before they're sent to clients? Perhaps this can be for a certain contract or for works that are for high value jobs. Once the quote is completed, have a sense check by someone else, because sometimes just having another pair of eyes reviewing a quote can make a big difference. What we can also do is issue a case study. Now, this isn't to point fingers or to pass blame or anything like that. It's just to share it as a lesson learned and serve as a reminder to do a double check, which it sounds really simple, but it can help, and it already does.
I mean, you mentioned pointing fingers and passing blame there, which some people may feel they're doing when they're submitting a close call. Talk to me a bit more about that pointing there. You both mentioned it actually.
Yes, yeah, we have. We have received some negative feedback and areas of concern, and I appreciate that not all feedback is going to be positive, and it's good to address concerns that people may have. The main one is the feeling that, as you say, we're pointing fingers at people. I understand that people may refrain from reporting a commercial close call as they don't want to notify us of somebody else's mistake, or perhaps they don't want to explain about an error that they have made. Money is an area which not everybody is comfortable with discussing, but I want to try and make people feel comfortable. We certainly aren't pointing fingers. We're trying to understand where we can make positive changes to try and stop mistakes from happening. It's about learning from those mistakes and increasing our commercial awareness. And that awareness, it's vital on all levels throughout the business, and we need everybody's help and support. That commercial awareness also gives you an appreciation for other departments and how they work and what they're dealing with. People may not be aware of what the knock-on effect is. If, for example, let's say an incorrect job number is allocated to an accommodation request. So communication is key between departments, and we're hoping that commercial close calls will help with this. Steve, when you set up safety close calls, did you have similar issues, like teething issues?
Yeah, and I know we're mature in relation to safety close calls, and probably mature in relation to other rail companies as well. But there were teething issues, and it's taken us a long time to get to where we are, and to a stage where we're not complacent about close calls. But, you know, in the early days, it was the finger pointing. Everybody was defensive. Everybody thought it was a finger pointing exercise. Mm-hmm. You know, I believe as a business, we're more mature than that. And we're more mature than that on safety. And we are more mature than that when it comes to commercial close calls as well. But some of the teething problems were people generally didn't believe that if they reported anything would ever get done. Or they believed that somebody else should have reported it. So there was that long lead time in making sure that people did report things rather than just ignore them because they'll hopefully go away. It was the time to take in report, and it's taken us a long time to get to reporting the close call within a minute. It's taken us nearly 11 years. There was also the lack of feedback, and what I do believe is, Beth, you're giving really good feedback to people at the moment.
Yeah.
On what's happened, why it's happened, and what we can do to prevent it. I didn't have that kind of feedback, and so in some ways, especially when it goes into the big close calls stuff in MRL, I can't give people that feedback. But I do know that with help of the IT team, we've got a good feedback process for when things are raised internally. And you know, there was always this reluctance in thinking nothing will ever get done, nothing will ever change. Well, do you know what? With safety close calls and commercial close calls, things can change, and they can change for the better.
Steve, I'm just going to pick up on something you mentioned there about Beth's feedback with the commercial close calls. Beth, is it yourself that investigates these close calls? Do you look into them and go through them and investigate them?
Yes, I do. So everyone that comes through, so I log them, I allocate actions, which are actions against myself. I go and talk to departments, talk to individuals, and just basically investigate the commercial close calls that come through. And it's about working together to find out what has happened, because we need to know what has happened to actually fix it. And then the next action is then trying to fix it. What can we do to stop it from happening again?
No, that's great. I think one thing I've picked up from both of you is Steve's got this nice fancy app for submitting close calls. Are you looking at bringing safety and commercial close calls in line with one another, Beth?
Yes, we are. Commercial close calls have been submitted via email up till now. However, our IT team have been working behind the scenes so that they can be raised via the Bridgeway Help app, just like you can with the safety close calls. This is now live, so to submit your commercial close call, all you have to do is go into the Bridgeway Help app, click on the commercial button, then click on commercial close calls and work through the questions. It's really quick and easy, and you can report on the commercial close calls in real time. Once you have raised one, you will receive an email confirming that your close call has been received, and you'll be able to view what you have submitted, and you can see any updates as well as the close call is progressed. So please get your commercial close calls submitted on the app. There are other areas where we are looking to make changes. It's important that we make everyone aware of the impact commercial close calls are having and what changes have been made or are being made. We issue case studies every so often, but we are looking into issuing commercial 343s and the You Said We Did briefs, as Assurance do with their safety close calls.
And have you made any changes then on the back of commercial close calls that have already been raised, and what changes have they been?
Yeah, so we have made quite a few already. So we've created some new processes and some new procedures. We have a certain contract where the commercial department complete a review of all quotes before they issue to the client. So before now, there was no additional check by commercial. But now what we're doing is we're checking it, we're talking through the quotes, and we're helping to identify areas where we may need to make an adjustment. So this has brought about a positive commercial change already. Some departments are now keeping a purchase order and invoice tracker. Sometimes our clients issue the same invoice more than once, and this tracker will hopefully stop invoices being approved multiple times. So that's something we've put into place. In commercial, we have a shared document now with possession management delivery managers. Within that document, billing details are updated in real time. Some departments are completing additional resource checks, and they're ensuring that labour, equipment, subcontractors, suppliers have all been appointed to jobs and nothing has been missed. We have made some suggestions for change on the back of commercial close calls. So we have put forward ideas for changing the accommodation app, and software development are currently looking into how M-Plan can be amended for when shifts are cancelled. We are raising awareness by issuing case studies as well, and just sending reminders out via email. Some of them have included what the process is for approving invoices, what payment terms should be on purchase orders, and reminders for when accommodation needs to be cancelled to ensure that we're not charged. They all sound like really minor reminders, but you'll be surprised by how much it adds up to when you take all costs into account. Some commercial close calls, they may need a bit more work than others, so not all of them are straightforward to fix or to close out. So it may be that some require a long-term plan, but rest assured that we are working behind the scenes on every commercial close call that gets submitted. One last thing from me is that with commercial close calls, we want them to benefit the business the same way as safety close calls, and we want Bridgeway to be a place where people feel safe raising issues, concerns and close calls, whether that be safety or commercial.
Steve, have you got anything else to add? Closing?
Yeah, nothing safety related, but in all my time, in my 62 years, I've never met anybody in my life that doesn't like saving a penny or two. And I think, commercial close calls they focus everybody's mind. Like you say, it's not penny pinching, but it's making us a more sustainable business, a more commercially focused set of departments and business.
Perfect. Yeah. And there's still a prize involved, right?
Yes, there is. I can't forget that. So there is a £500 prize every year for the best commercial close call. So yes, get your close calls sent in.
That's great. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.